You know how it is with Indian cricket, because there's so many matches going on in such a relatively short span of time. Even when India end up getting a big victory like they did in the second test match, the 5-match series against England, the tendency always is to look forward. What's next? What's coming thereafter? And because again, there's so much cricket played, that has often led to more injuries and unavailability of certain players. And so it was perhaps not that much of a surprise when this man right here, Rahul Dravid, addressed the post-match press conference after the game and, well, was mostly met with a lot of questions regarding certain returns. Now, we know that there's not been a Virat Kohli in the side because he's opted out due to personal reasons. And of course, there has been some chatter around Ishan Kishan, given that he took a break for mental health reasons, and since then there's been conflicting reports over what his status within the team is. Some reports suggest that it's up to him when he makes himself available. Others say that there are certain members of the team management who are not happy with him, and therefore he's not going to be considered for up to a year. Those are some of the rumors we've heard. I will repeat, none of those can be considered facts. It's all just rumors, and therefore it is not that surprising that Dravid was in fact quizzed about this, and he did come up with some interesting answers. But it wasn't just this particular match he spoke about. He did speak about, or rather, it wasn't just these returns he spoke about. He did speak about the match as well. We'll look at some of the more interesting things he said in this press conference, because believe you me when I say I heard that press conference myself, there was a lot to unpack. But first, let's get to the important bits. When are you expecting to see a Virat Kohli back? Well, in that regard, I'm sorry to say that Dravid was very non-committal. Why? Because he said that we'll connect with Virat Kohli and find out whether he is available for the next test. In fact, he further went on to say, he's saying, look, I can't answer that question for you. The better person to answer that question would be the selectors, because they'll be the ones who will, of course, take the team meeting and, of course, potentially get to, selecting the team. So they'll be in a better position to answer it. I perhaps am not. But what it does tell you is that there's really still no clarity as to whether or not a Virat Kohli makes a comeback in the third test or not. We know that the squad for the first 2 tests was announced. Kohli was part of that, then pulled out due to personal reasons. But ever since then, we've not heard a peep about whether or not he'd be coming back. There's been nothing in the media, and Rahul Dravid himself is giving nothing away. He said, look, it is very simple. When we get to know, we'll connect with him. Then you'll also get to know. Maybe it's just a case of keeping his cards close to the chest, but it's safe to say that there was none of that applied when he was quizzed about Ishan Kishan. Now, the reason he was quizzed about Ishan Kishan is worth noting, came right after a question about the form of KS Bharat, and we've debated it heavily on our show, so it's no surprise that it's also something that a lot of people in general are talking about. And he said that, look, with KS, his keeping has been solid. Obviously, with the bat, there are times when even he'll admit he could have done better, but it's not always a simple case of backing a player to play at the international level and then him seizing the opportunity with both hands instantly. So some players take a little time. Having said that, even Bharat knows that there are better performances that we can expect from him, which then led to a question about Ishan Kishan and his return. And well, Dravid seemed a little miffed to answer another question about Ishan Kishan, because he said, I don't know how many times I have to make this clear, but here is what we know, and we'll also discuss how it dovetails, let's say, with some of the recent rumors we've heard. He said that Ishan requested a break and we granted him that break. We were happy to grant him that break. When he wants to come back and play domestic cricket, there's a way back for him in the international scheme of things as well. We are in touch with him. We are in touch with him. That last part is very important, because if you've noticed, and there is a video we've done where we've done a big Ishan Kishan debate on one of our shows, you can check that out on the channel if you haven't already. And in that we said that, it is really imperative on team management, if he's taken a break for mental health reasons, to be constantly checking on him and seeing if he's doing okay. Dravid himself has confirmed that yes, we are in touch with him, and as he says, there's a very clear pathway for him back. He said that, when he was asked about is the door shut on Ishan or is there a way back, he said no, there's a way back for everyone. He's saying we're never going to be shutting the door on any individual. There's a way back for everyone. And he said the way back for him is simple: get back into cricket, tell us that he's available for selection, and we'll consider him for selection. He also said, and this part is very, he said that, no one's forcing anyone to play domestic cricket. He's saying we're not making that as a conditional thing. He's saying, but obviously if he's taken a break and then needs to make a comeback, maybe starting with domestic cricket doesn't seem like the worst idea. And you know what, I have to say, I entirely agree with him in this case. It is absolutely necessary that Kishan, if he's making a comeback, having not played competitive cricket in a while, perhaps starts off with the grind of domestic cricket, if at all he's serious about making himself a featured player in the test format. Again, there are many players for whom playing white ball cricket is more important, and that's entirely understandable, but Kishan does have a golden opportunity to become a test player right now as well. The incumbent wicketkeeper batsman is Rishabh Pant, who you don't really know what his status is as a batter, wicketkeeper, anything of the sort really right now. The person who's replaced him, KS Bharat, has not set the stage on fire by any stretch of the imagination. So if I'm Kishan, I'm grabbing that chance. But again, we don't really know what's going through the mind of Ishan Kishan. What we do know is that there is a way back for him. There is no case of a 1-year ban of anything of that sort on him. None of that. Dravid said it's simple. All he has to do is come back to playing cricket, and the way back for him is just about there. But as I said, these weren't the only things he talked about. Another interesting thing he mentioned was about the talk about pitches, because again, you'd remember that in the first test match, you had a slow turner of a pitch. In the second test match, you'd say there was turn on offer, but it was more on the sporting, batter-friendly side of things. And one of the journalists actually quizzed him saying, what kind of pitches can we expect, given that, you were asking for ranked turners. And that was also something, by the way, that irritated Dravid a little bit, because his response was pretty simple. He said, listen, man, we don't ask for ranked turners. I don't know what it is you're talking about. It's the curator who makes the pitches. So he further added the tracks are always going to turn in India, but it's not an exact science. So what he said is, and to elaborate on this point, he said that, we're not asking for ranked turners. What the curator gives us, that's what we're playing on. Whether or not that's true, that's something, I guess we can all figure out for ourselves. Let's not kid ourselves into believing that, the team management doesn't make requests. But as he said, he's saying it's not an exact science. Sometimes I'll be told by the curator that, we expect this pitch to spin from day 2 and it doesn't spin till day 4. He further added that sometimes we've been told from day 3 onwards it'll start to spin, but on day 1 itself you're seeing square turns. So it's not an exact science. That's his response. He's pretty much said, no, we're not asking for ranked turners. But, come on. I think we all know that, the alteration of pitches, the way it happened, to the extent that it happened, it's not something that could have happened without the know-how or the knowledge of team management, the BCCI as a whole. I refuse to believe this one. But as he says, it's not an exact science what kind of pitch you get. The best thing you can do, play on the kind of pitches you get. So very non-committal on what type of a track you can expect at Rajkot, which is of course the venue for the third test. But if any of you are interested, Rajkot historically has always been a very good batting ground. So perhaps you're going to get a similar pitch like the one you did in Vizag. Historically, also one of those grounds which is very batter friendly. And of course, he also did have plenty of nice words to say about the opponents. A lot of people on social media, let's say, have taken up a very combative tone and said that, this is the end of baseball. Now we're showing them how to really play test cricket and what it's like against quality opposition. And you can't always be this aggressive, this reckless. Dravid sees things a little differently. He said that, look, they're a good side. They play test cricket very well, saying they've been successful, but they're unconventional. But let's not call them sloggers. This is his exact words. He said that, look, what they do, it's not while slogging. Some of the shots they play are very, very skillful, saying that they have the ability also to adjust according to the situation, and they have been successful in that regard as well. So Dravid himself may taking a very interesting point and saying, look, you can't criticize their approach and say that it's only while slogging. He's saying some of the shots they play requires a lot of practice and a lot of skill, which, to be fair, you get his point. Yes, a reverse sweep might be seen as an unconventional test match stroke, but to play it on a consistent basis is not just a case of waking up from bed one day and going, oh, you know what, I'm going to play a reverse sweep. You need to practice it constantly in the nets, and you need to have that ability, that bravery to go for it when you feel like it's a scoring shot. So he's saying, and they also have the ability to adjust their style. They can play a little within themselves, then choose to accelerate. Saying at the end of the day, what matters is they've been successful, and we're expecting a very good series against them. So those are the major talking points, really. We don't know whether or not a Virat Kohli will be available for the third test or not. We know what the pathway is for Ishan Kishan to come back into the team. And what's more, we also know that, at least in Dravid's words himself, we don't request ranked turners, although I will not really believe that one. I'm not quite sure you guys should either. And he's also pretty much full of praise for the England side and their quote-unquote baseball approach. Although it is worth noting that Dravid himself said, he said, you know what, I'm not quite sure that even the English like the term baseball, so maybe you should not use that term. But he was full of praise. He was very effusive with his praise. He said, look, they're a good side. We've been expecting some hard-fought test cricket. He's saying it's nice to have that. He's saying I would have preferred if we're 2-0 up after the 2 tests, but we always expected a really big challenge from this Indian team when it comes to this series. He said we always expected a challenge. We knew full well that it was never going to be an easy task, let's say, to replicate the kind of success we've had against recent teams. Saying we expected a hard fight, and so far we've given as good as what we've got. In fact, couple more interesting talking points. You'd remember that after the last game in the press conference, he mentioned that, our batters should have perhaps gotten about 70-80 more runs. It was a criticism he repeated here as well. He said that, a lot of our batters got starts, but they didn't end up getting that big score in the first innings. He's saying that was one of the best batting conditions, and considering you had one batter who got a double 100, perhaps the others you should have gotten at least another 100, and then maybe you would have been about 70-80 runs more than where you are. He said 300 odd, not really enough in those circumstances. You needed to be well above 400 plus. You needed to be at 475 or so. That was his words. But as he said, in the end, we did what we had to. It was the skill of our bowlers. He's saying 2 individual performances, or 2 key individual performances, one from Yashasvi Jaiswal, the other from Jasprit Bumrah, kept us in the game, and in the end, that's what really helped us. So those were the major talking points really from Dravid's piece. It was a pretty interesting, riveting one, not unlike a lot of the times when he speaks to the media, because he does have plenty of good insights. But what are your thoughts really on the entire matter? What are your thoughts, let's say, on the Kishan debate, on Kohli's return, on whether or not India should ask for rank turners, or whether or not, let's say, he should be this effusive for his praise for baseball, given they've just defeated that team? You can tell us all of that in the comments below. And don't forget, if you enjoyed this video, to like it, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, tap that bell, leave us a comment, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Don't forget to download the SportsTak app. And if you're already on the channel, well, then go ahead, check out some other videos we've done as well. For now, from my side though, it's goodbye.